Okay, good morning, folks. So our schedule for today has changed. We are going to reschedule our joint hearing with Education and Ways and Means. That was supposed to be for this afternoon because of the impending storm, and some people have a long distance to travel. So, and it is starting in the south. So, um, that's what's happening there. So we're going to try to finish up our budget recommendations this morning. And then any final language proposals that are sort of lingering out there for folks. Hi, come on in, welcome. Thank you. And we will then have a little bit of an earlier day than normal. So people can travel. Welcome. Where are y'all from?
St. Johnsbury, most of us, or all of us are Northeast Kingdom anyway.
And are you here with the group or?
We're with it for the ACLU Lobby Day.
Oh, okay, awesome. All right. I think I saw you come in with Alex earlier. Yeah. So, well, welcome to House Human Services and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
We are just, our committee has to make recommendations to the Appropriations Committee on the Human Services budget, on our parts of the Human Services budget. And so we are just going through the various departments and coming up with our recommendations. And so we left off with the last and probably the more complicated version of DCF at the Office of Economic Opportunity and the Economic Services Division. And first off, I recognize that there's a bunch of stuff that's tied up in the quote unquote housing proposal. So not expecting any, yeah, just cast that stuff aside, you know. Our members think that they own the place. Usually Representative Noyes has a big old backpack sitting right where you're sitting. So, okay. So recognizing that, not expecting any, unless you have comments that you want to make, but not expecting any particular hard and fast recommendations around that. So, what do you folks have that you would at least like to say?
I mean, most of ours is tied up in that. I think before we move on from that subject, I do want to highlight one related recommendation we have. I don't know whether it falls within that, what we do with our bill, or if we put it through in, you know, I think regardless, we have to put it into the budget recommendation is End Homelessness Vermont. They've asked for about 600,000. We would like to, we're gonna remove the $100,000 in concrete supports from that request. Sorry, my computer updated and I've lost all of my tabs.
Oh, no.
And yeah, it's trying to find the right ones. And that I think we'll consider as part of the larger package of the homelessness bill. But I think, I believe, and I know others, that the work that they're doing is incredibly important. I will point you all to the sign-on letter or the kind of group letter we received the other day with all of these organizations who work with kind of our most vulnerable Vermonters. You saw Vermont Care Partners signed on. There's a number of them. Again, I don't have it up, and they're the ones who are doing the work with these people in other areas of their life, and they signed on in recognition of the great work and Homelessness Vermont is doing to address their housing situation and ensuring they have shelter and a safe place to sleep and exist. And I am pretty sure, I mean, I don't know how to talk about this online, but their work will not be funded through the state unless we specifically put that language in, and name them, specifically. And I know that can be unusual, but we've done it in the past. We funded the Youth Spectrum Shelter. So this would be one-time funds. And it's just something I believe that, is incredibly important, probably one of the more important recommendations we have. People will die, people will suffer without them doing this work. It's not being done by anyone else. So I don't know if you want to kind of go through all of the things and then go back, or talk about that first.
Why don't we go through each item
Okay.
you have in terms of recommendations, and something just weird happened, like my FY27 budget file doesn't have any of the things I put in it. So I was looking for the
Yeah,
letter, because I
I was
remember
not-
receiving the memo that had a whole
Yeah.
bunch of different things.
Posted on Thursday.
Thursday?
Posted on
Okay.
Thursdays, okay, thank you.
Um,
Can you remind, what was the amount? So-
yeah, I'm trying to,
600, well, 611, 625, but I think your recommendation was 100,000 less than that.
yeah, we take out the concrete supports because I think, we had a lot of requests from various agencies.
On
and I-
Wednesday.
Yeah, I think we want to tackle the kind of the concrete supports part of that request. When we're talking about the budget for our bill, but I'm just getting that.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be 511,625 instead. The kind of other things we are thinking about, well, we were going to bring forward a recommendation for 211 to kind of fully bring back and level fund them over what they received last year. I'm very happy to report that over in-house healthcare, they have a technology grant. It's one-time funds, but they'll be able to make up that $322,000, I believe it was. I would like to support that. I've also been talking with Allison, the director, and this grant and having this level funding. They're doing a lot of exciting work, and we'll be able to update the computer system. And doing that, there's technology has come a long way in the past few years, and they'll be able to tap into that. So being able to do that will also solve some of the staffing issues and capacity issues they've been also trying to handle while ensuring Vermonters know where to go to meet their needs. And so through automation of some things, they'll be able to provide a greater service to Vermont. Even with, it'll allow them kind of in those overnight hours, if they're not staffed, at least some basic ways they'll be able to connect Vermonters to emergency services, support things like 988 through the use of this technology. So I'm hoping it won't come out of our budget, but I'm hoping we can do a recommendation to support House Healthcare's
Recommendation, yeah, especially since they found a way to fund it.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that everybody's clear. This is, so we are going to be stepping back from 24/7 coverage. So, the way I understand their proposal, their overall proposal, in addition to the technology issues, is that they will actually beef up staffing during the evening hours, between 6 and 10 or something, 5 and 4 and 10, something like
4
that.
and 10,
Yeah.
4 and 10.
That will enable them to have more robust response during that period of time. So,
And to be clear, not doing this will mean they'll have to cut further from what they're doing, not only hours, but it will reduce their ability to answer those people experiencing a housing crisis, or in an emergency weather event. They will have to reduce staff, and so there would be even more disruption to services and
So-
connections.
So I think, unless there's any objection to it, you know, this is just us supporting, another sister committee's, recommendation. I think that that's something we should go ahead and put in our chart and, support that. The, exact amount that they ended up funding, I think we could find, that hopefully they have their letter posted by now. I know it's gone to.
They do have it posted.
Yeah. So, okay, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
The easy one, that's,
The rest are not so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, our budget, our budget areas, it was kind of, it's all very either wrapped up in this housing, homelessness proposal or money was cut and then put into other budget areas. So we can't really, there's no wiggle room there. We don't have any areas to find money. And then I think the kind of
yeah, I'm gonna ask you not to sit there. We've had people kind of jumping into that seat and then folks have had to, thank you.
The other is the food bank. We heard we had Terry Stoller in. They're asking, I mean, overall, it's a $5 million package, 2 million of which would be in our committee. The other 3 million are 2 million is over in ag and 1 million was in
Emergency management.
emergency management, yeah, GovOps. So I would like to support all of that. And, especially the 2 million from our committee, which is really just used to purchase food for Vermonters. And I think we need to understand the context of why we're having these discussions. And that is because of HR 1, where we're now putting more money in the pockets of the wealthiest Americans in Vermont. That includes $757 million is going into the pockets of the wealthiest Vermonters. And so we're having to have these discussions on how much we can have to fund for the Vermonters who are struggling the most, and that is children and
Hear this. Want to hear this.
and that. So I know we don't have anywhere to pull that money from. But these are our most vulnerable Vermonters, and this is the most essential basic need you can have as a human is you need to eat to be able to survive. And so I really hope we can figure out and come together how we ensure our older Vermonters and families with children and people who are living with disabilities and struggling can still meet their basic needs.
So, the Ag Committee, I believe, is also recommending the farm to table piece there, right? Yeah. Vermonters feeding Vermonters, yeah, that piece of it. I have not touched base with government operations with regard to that. I don't know.
My understanding is that they are pretty adamant
Okay.
about that 1 million
Yeah.
that is for emergency.
Emergency.
If another flood is to happen, how do we massively distribute
Uh,
or be prepared at least? Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're pretty. adamant.
And I said at the outset, at the beginning of this session that, we'd be focusing on the basics for Vermonters, which is, in my estimation, food and shelter. So that I'm just looping back in because that I think also will speak to the recommendation made by the Dale team around Meals on Wheels. That's also a basic food food for older Vermonters and people with disabilities. So Representative Steady.
I heard about the wealthiest. Not all wealthy people are trust fund kids. I have friends that are millionaires. They've worked their butts off to get there. They've worked hard to get there. So we can't. Oh, I heard.
Nobody said trust
wealthiest.
fund. Nobody said anything
Oh,
about trust funds.
Not all wealthy
In the middle of
people.
the conversation.
No, I heard about the wealthiest and I want to get it on record that all people that are wealthy, I have a relative that's a millionaire. He quit school in 10th grade. He worked his butt off to get that money. Why should they be asked to pay for more money? It's not right. They're already paying taxes that are outrageous. So they're already contributing. Before I go meet with Ann, I needed that on record because a lot of people are talking about it in Vermont, especially people that have worked hard for their money.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Esme?
So one piece with this food element is like everything's interconnected. So we've been trying to do a lot of digging into how HR1 will affect SNAP administration and try to get a little bit more answers there. And it is relevant too with our food bank requests that when folks are kicked off of SNAP or when, I don't know, I'll use a better word, they kicked off, like, you know, when new eligibility requirements present new barriers, or even if you are eligible and you can't keep up with the paperwork, you know, people are going to rely more heavily on the.
It'll be falling through the cracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if we don't have this as the backup, like it's more relevant than ever, really, with these new changes.
Okay, so we have that on the table. And I do want to, as I just said, loop in when we're talking about hunger and we're talking about food security for people. I think we need to, so it wouldn't, I'm just sort of, whatever you want to say, preparing for people that it's a one, all or none from my perspective. So we can't say yes to the food bank and no to senior meals.
Agreed.
So if we're going to say yes, that means that we're saying yes to both. I'm just putting that out there. Okay.
Sorry, if I could just sort of summarize so I have a clear understanding. The total ask was about $5 million. There's 2 million ag, 1 million from government ops, and 2 million here.
Yes.
Thank you.
And like we just talked about doing for supporting the healthcare committee's budget ask, the chair asked if we were going to be supporting that, the food bank, and I said, well, we haven't talked about it yet. And they said, well, if you do, then I want to put that in his letter. And so again, vice versa. I think it's one of those things. Our sister committees seem to be in line with making sure that the basics of food and shelter are things that we, in this really time of uncertainty in the country, really, and impacts of changes that happened in HR1 are being felt on the ground level, frankly, as early as March 1st for SNAP recipients that's coming on the line. These are the backstops. These are the backstop programs and services when people we saw a huge influx in November when people didn't know whether their SNAP benefit was going to come in or not. Our local food shelves and food pantries had a huge rush, and it is the food bank that supports them in being able to keep their shelves stocked with nutritious foods. So it all weaves together, and we have that same uncertainty coming on March 1st for many folks. And I will say the department has been keeping me updated. They know that they have not been able to reach all of the individuals who are going to be impacted on March 1st with an explanation about the changing requirements. And so, you know, despite their best efforts and, you know, getting information out, and of course, we heard from our community partners that they too are talking with folks, but there is a significant group of people who this will be a surprise, and they will most likely, with the data that the department has shared, become ineligible for SNAP until they reapply again. And so there'll be a period of food insecurity for them. And I do just want to remind people that SNAP is an auxiliary benefit. It is not something that provides a full amount of funding for any single person or family to sustain themselves on. So, yeah, go ahead,
Just a
Dan.
quick question on that. So older Vermonters that receive a direct deposit, will they get this notification and be subject to?
They will be getting notifications like everybody else. I think that there are different rules for
Yes.
people at different ages and household composition.
Yeah.
So they don't have the same, I don't believe they have the same documentation requirements as people at other certain ages. But they should just be watching their mail because the things that come are coming via snail mail and the mail is not dependable.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Just,
Yeah,
want some clarification. there.
yeah. Again, Meals on Wheels is that backstop for people who are older, living at home, often by themselves.
Proactivity there about letting people know it's coming.
Yeah. Again, hopefully the area agencies on aging are out there doing their job.
I will say Hunger Free Vermont is on it and did send out emails to everyone with some ways you
Sure.
can help direct constituents to resources and keep folks
Yeah.
aware of what's going on.
Okay, so, okay, well, that requires new money, so we're gonna keep that on the list, but not
Yeah.
making a decision quite yet. Okay,
Do you want to talk about the outreach grant part? I don't think we have
Sure.
answers yet, but yeah.
Yeah, well, as part of HR1,
Speaking of reaching out to people.
yes, so any outreach element associated with Three Squares, the match that we used to receive from the feds for those services was 50%, and now it's 25%. So, it's gonna be a very significant fundraising difference for Hunger Free Vermont to do that same,
is it 75 and move to 50?
you mean in terms of what they have to raise? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the opposite.
What we
Yeah.
Like what so now, they will have to, or we, however we split it up, will have to, come up with 75% of the total outreach dollars, to do anything related to SNAP assistance.
That's not on their list, yeah.
So that's, I think, an important discussion for us to wrap our heads around about what do we want to support in coming up with that huge new gap that was presented, or will that all just be sheer fundraising on their part? So I think our expectations need to be at least very candid or open about like what the gap that we are asking them to fill if we don't step in, just for our awareness.
So I think, I'm not sure everybody understands exactly what you're speaking
Yeah.
of.
Let me
So
pull up the numbers.
for folks, part of not Reach Up, SNAP. Part of SNAP, there's community outreach dollars that have gone out to several different community partners. And so those community partners have been, in addition to receiving some funds from the department, they've also had to raise or account for a state match essentially, at the local level, to, I don't know if you would call it maintenance of effort, officially or not, but at the federal level, again, the outreach dollars are being cut back. And so, essentially to stay level, the local community partners have to raise even more funds in order to do the same thing. So I will say that there's a part of me that says that if we are going to act on a proposal for benefit assisters, I would not be doing anything with what it is that you're talking about right now.
Okay.
And the reason that I say that is because it's for the same things. It's not the exact same service, but it's close enough for government work, from my perspective. Sorry. And I have a proposed source of funding for benefit assisters and I'm not sure about the full proposal, but so that's just where my head is going with that. So if we're able to get resources out to that wide group across all disabilities, healthcare, community organizations. I mean, honestly, I did think it was pretty impressive. The variety of different providers that came together as a coalition and said, this is what we need in order to try to help protect Vermonters. So I would like to be able to figure out a way to at least get some portion of that on the books, that concept on the books. And my thought is that as a legislative body, we set aside $50 million for impacts from the federal government. And we've used 6.5 million of that for the SNAP benefit last November. And this is a direct impact of HR 1, which is what that $50 million was set aside for. So my proposal be to recommend the benefit assisters, but that the funding source of that would be the set aside money that we appropriated as a body last fiscal year. I'm sure other people are going to have eyes on that money as well. And
There's a lot of federal impacts.
there are a lot of federal impacts, right? So one of the things that we're seeing, and as we look at more and more detail, and this is particularly in DCF, but it's not exclusively in DCF, and we see it in DIVA as well. There's a number of different cuts being made to community outreach. And the reality is we're going to actually need more community outreach now than even prior to this past July 1. And when I look up at our guiding principles and we're talking about ensuring that Vermonters have equitable access to the services, okay? You don't have equitable access to services if you are a person who doesn't know what's happening to you. And that's what is critical about this investment in benefit assisters. And so I think if we can make a strong enough argument that it comes from the $50,000 that we've set aside already, we have a chance of getting that. 50 million, sorry. Yeah, 50 million. Yeah, that we've set aside. So I'm not asking you to, make a stand on that at this point in time, but I'm just asking you to think about that as a potential source. And the reason I bring it up now is because it in my mind relates to what Esme, you were talking about a minute ago, even though I know it's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what else do you have for us?
And then the other thing is, we learned and at the final hour kind of about this reach up funds that goes to some of our DAs. That's actually over in their budget. If you remember, Amy Johnson testified about it when she was here talking about Vermont Care Partners Ask. It's 1.5 million. It allows our DAs to work with Reach Up participants right away and help respond to acute mental health crises and ensure they're getting the care and treatment they need right away while they work on the rest of the processes. Without this, it means folks will need to, go through this kind of long process of like assessment and diagnosis and the DA has no funds to be able to allow them to work with people in that kind of intermediate period while all of that happens. And it's also tends to be a really crucial point in their life where they need those supports. We had been wondering, because we didn't see it in our budget, which is why we weren't aware of it. And it looks like, I just heard back from the department, so thank you if you're listening, that this pot of funding was transferred to DMH years ago. So that's why we didn't see anything in
I
our
see.
budget. So
Okay.
there is no coordinating.
It's not part of that 3.4 million in down grants. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm still wondering what those are.
Yeah.
But in grants, so yeah, this one has been a really hard one. There are multiple spreadsheets, and it's been hard to figure out how things come in together. There's, multiple grants that we have no clue what they really are that are being cut or moved, or we don't know. So it's hard to have a recommendation, but I think kind of second to SNAP. This is one of those safety measures, those kind of final options. It is nowhere near enough money to thrive, but it allows people to survive, our families with children to survive. So I know it's not likely for this year's budget, but I hope we continue talking about it and continue to figure out how we can do things like reduce the rateable reduction or modernize the data we use when we create these formulas or calculate household kind of what their benefits are, like moving to at least a more recent year of the basic needs budget or housing allowance.
Okay. So we don't really know. I mean, when looking at the Reach Up in their grants line, they post reductions that says Reach Up case management other, Reach Up case management parent child, all with reductions. The pregnant parenting residential services, and then the big one it says regular grants, and that's moving from 25.5 to 24.3. It looks like it's decreased from the FY26 original budget. Those are the regular grants. Those are the regular payments to families. Okay, sorry, I just connected. That's the what they call caseload adjustment. Okay, all right. Sorry, I answered my own question. Okay, so let's loop back up. Is that the end of at this point in time? Okay.
I don't know if the committee's interested, but I did find some more numbers on our previous discussion area, which has to do with like if we do proceed forward with instead of more outreach grant dollars with proceeding with the benefit assisters, just to put it in context for us. So like the outreach grant, I was looking for this document earlier when we were talking, but I couldn't find it. So outreach from DCF for 3 Squares declined by over $100,000 in this governor's recommend budget. And just so we know, like for 103 specifically, they would have to raise $312,306 in private funds in order to have like the same kind of level of outreach there. So
I don't normally do this, but to be honest with you, Nora, I don't really understand how this works. So do you mind being put on the spot for a moment?
Find it all.
Okay, would you take a seat in the witness chair? So let me say what I think exists, and I have no idea if this is accurate or not. So in terms of outreach for SNAP, 3 Squares, the department sends out grant awards to community partners, Hunger Free being one, and then you have to provide additional funding at the local level in order to match that. Is that what happens?
That's a piece of what happens.
Okay.
For the record, Honora Horton, I'm the executive director of Hunger Free Vermont. So I think for a minute, it would be useful to think about the outreach piece of work on 3 Squares Vermont as part of the overall administrative funding for the SNAP program in Vermont, because that's how the Department for Children and Families understands it. It's like a piece of the administrative funding. And all of that funding, no matter who does the work, historically has been 50% federal government funds, 50% non-federal government funds. So either the state agency provides funding or there has to be, or some other funding is provided, but it just can't be federal dollars. So most of the administrative work is done by the state agency, right? In Vermont, by the Department for Children and Families, and the state agency for the funding to administer SNAP. So everybody who works in the call center, everybody who, processes applications, determines how to enact the requirements issued by Congress and USDA in Vermont, all of that work. the state has paid historically 50% of that, and the feds have paid 50%. And part of the requirements in the federal laws around SNAP are that states conduct outreach on the program so that people know that the program is available and if they're eligible, how they can apply. And many states outsource that money. So they subgrant that outreach work to nonprofit partners. And that's what Vermont does. And there's 10 of us, 10 different organizations that do that work. And so in Vermont, that portion, the state agency has paid a piece of that, and that how much they pay, how much they help the nonprofit partner meet their match to the federal government varies by organization. And then, but for many, as long as I've been at Hunger Free Vermont for 14 years, and for all that time, it's been standard that the nonprofit organization comes up with the bulk, in most cases, of the match for the federal funding ourselves to carry out outreach, training, direct application assistance on SNAP. So that's the case. So we at Hunger Free Vermont, just to take us as one example, we raise most of the dollars from private foundations, individual Vermonters who donate to Hunger Free Vermont. Some of that funding goes to match the federal money that we receive through the state, and the state agency contributes a small portion of that. So now the federal funding for all administrative work, so all that the state agency does, plus outreach work, which in Vermont is mostly outsourced to nonprofits. All of that, the federal portion of that is going from 50% of the whole cost to 25% of the whole cost. And so the state agency has to fund their work to run the SNAP program at 75%. They have to cover 75%. But also we nonprofit partners, to continue to do our outreach work, we're now faced with a covering 75% of the cost to carry out the work, to make sure that people in Vermont know that Three Squares Vermont exists, know how to apply, know how to figure out if they're eligible. And at Hunger Free Vermont, we do all the training for all of the nonprofit and community partners, not just those 10, but hundreds and hundreds of people around the state every year. We do free training for them to help them know how to help people apply, how to talk about Three Squares Vermont accurately, et cetera. Is that helpful? I'm sorry I talked so long, but it's really complicated.
It is, and it's bizarro.
Yes.
It's just a very technical term. So the logical part of my brain says, okay, then, if we're not going to backfill what it requires in order to keep things level, then how do we expect community partners to fill in what is essentially a state/federal program, but we're asking nonprofits to fund it?
Mhm.
I mean, that's really what's happening.
Yes.
And so we're putting this on the back of nonprofits to raise the funds to do the state's work.
Yes, and ultimately the federal government's work, really, like for the program.
Right.
Yes, and I want to say a couple things about that, if I may. So first of all of us who do outreach work to help people connect with Three Squares Vermont, yes, we certainly need help to cover this extra funding and match. And yes, overall, it would be great if that work on this federal program was supported in a different way than us raising, you know, a lot of private funding to cover it. At the same time, it is equally, if not even more important to us that the state agency, that DCF has the full funding that they need to properly, robustly administer the Three Squares Vermont program here, because they run the call center, they send out notices to people. I mean, there is so much work that has to be done carefully, respectfully, thoughtfully. And we're in a situation now where the paperwork burdens are greater for people. They're more confusing than ever before. There's even more negative conversation out there about participants in Three Squares Vermont that needs to be countered. And we depend upon the Department for Children and Families as our partner. We in communicating all that needs to be communicated about this complicated program to people so that people can continue to access the program. And we believe that very few people in our state actually have to lose their food benefits because of the changes at the federal level. That really, if we can even step up further the state agency's work and our work as outreach partners, that we can help people retain their benefits who are already enrolled in Three Squares Vermont, and we can help there's thousands and thousands of people who are eligible for Three Squares Vermont who are not enrolled now. And that is money that families need as food costs are rising and inflation and health insurance costs are rising. It's money that our grocers and our community markets need, and our farm markets.
Okay.
We need, now is not the moment to be cutting back on outreach help for people.
Right. Okay, that's been very helpful, Nora. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
So do you have a dollar amount across all of did you say 10 partners? Is there 10 partners? Nora, did you say 10 partners?
Oh, yes.
Do you have a dollar amount that is the increase this year? Not what would replace the whole thing, but the increase?
In cost burden, which would,
It's 400 and something $1,000. It's in the benefit assisters. It's a piece of the benefit assisters.
It's already part of that.
It's part of it. And I believe that number is named in there, but I don't have it.
Okay, we have that proposal.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that even lends more credence to what I was saying earlier. Okay. All right, so, okay, so let's take on food first. And part of food is outreach with Three Squares, the Meals on Wheels. And do you have any information? I know that the AAAs were supposed to be coming back via Gail Zatz with information about how much in quote unquote admin was.
I do not have any. information.
Okay. Will you try to track her down and see if she has any information?
Just right
Oh,
there.
she's here. Oh, I didn't even know you were right here. Sorry.
Tracking down.
Good job. I know. Good job, Dan.
I just received a bunch of information, so we're putting it together.
Okay. Okay, all right. So, just for people around the table, around the outside of the table is, we have to, I'm trying to get to a place where we're pretty much done today, but can finalize things on Tuesday. So just, and Tuesday at the very latest, that's it. So it'd be helpful for any information that's out there circulating that needs to come to the center of the table, if it can come sooner rather than later. Okay, so let's presume that we're okay with what happened with that. And so that we're looking for another million gross, and whether it's GC or.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to make that decision based on how secure that funding would be, and if,
In the future,
in the future,
yeah,
because we already have we already have money there, the 1.3. So,
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think that increasing it made just more exposure to.
I hear you, I hear you,
So-
yeah, yeah. Okay, so can I see by a show of hands, the level of support for the 2 million to the Vermont Food Bank for food that goes out to all of the food pantries and food shelves in Vermont?
We have a little more discussion on that.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I guess I'm just still trying to see where we might identify some funds offset. We talked about the 50 million set aside, but related to the assisters. I'm just wondering, I know you say if we want to do in for one, in for all, but other committees have already, seems like they're willing to commit $3 million towards the needs of the food bank. And
It's only 5 million that's being requested total,
And they're
two and one.
different, like 2 million is for Vermonters feeding Vermonters, which is.
Purchasing from
Yeah,
farms
farms.
specifically.
This is, I mean, honestly, this 2 million is a lot of this shelf stable foods that really supplement anything, they're kind of the backbone of the food resources, and then the other 1 million is for emergency. So it's not like we can just subside on those. It's yeah.
What's the 3 million you're speaking of, Doug? Is it different than what Jubilee just described?
Nope.
Okay. You still, is it, okay. All right, I just wanted to double check.
Need the source of funding we're recommending as the.
We don't have a source of funding for food. Okay, so then I'll ask the question again, if people are ready to, so are people, can I see by a show of hands, those folks who are, people supporting the $2 million for food that, go from the food bank to out the local food shelves, et cetera? Okay, alrighty. And then are we supportive of supporting our sister committees, like they will be supporting us on the recommendations that the other committees are making? Okay, great.
For the ag committee's request and then the healthcare's, or sorry, GovOps,
The
yeah.
box, yeah, for emergency. Okay. Now let's turn to food for older Vermonters through Meals on Wheels. And they had a $1 million request. We are falling painfully behind on what is being paid. It doesn't mean that we don't want the information coming from Gail. But this is a preliminary, and I would actually like language on this
Yes.
ban that says that this money is going directly to food programs. For that $1 million to Meals on Wheels for older Vermonters and people with disabilities. People supportive of food, okay, thank you.
That's the 986,622, almost $1 million.
Yes, 1 million.
I'm looking at
Oh,
your.
I'm still working on that. I know. That is not,
No, that's,
I'm just putting some notes in there. I will finish that up this afternoon. I've been,
sorry.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Okay, so we've dealt with food. Thank you for that background information, and thank you, this committee, for supporting food, because it's a basic. Okay, let's loop back around to End Homelessness Vermont. And the supportive peer-run services for people with disabilities. That's the focus of the work that End Homelessness Vermont does, is around individuals with specific disabilities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we can still go.
yeah, I would just adding to the conversation and the remarks made earlier by our budget buddies. Yeah, I think it speaks volumes that the letter of support that has 15 organizations, many of whom are the frequent flyers that we see doing this work and are supported by the state to do this work. Their recognition that End Homelessness Vermont's work is vitally important to what they're trying to accomplish. I think the work particularly, I mean, at many occasions, but over the summer with the work for the Human Services Board in fighting the executive order and the repeated and consistent victories that End Homelessness Vermont has received on behalf of Vermonters has been significant. And it's far from clear to me why the department has not chosen to partner more closely with them on very effective work. So I'm supportive of it.
Is anybody able to?
I have the letter.
Find the letter.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so
because-
yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity. I mean, this is Vermont Interfaith Action. These are the folks running the winter emergency shelters.
Just read down
Okay.
the list.
Hunger Free Vermont, Vermont Harm Reduction Advocates, the National Harm Reduction Coalition, the Vermont Parent Child Center Network, Feeding the Valley Alliance, Vermont Community Action Partnership, the American Civil Liberties Union of Vermont, Disability Rights Vermont, Vermont Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance, Vermont Center for Independent Living, Vermont Care Partners, Another Way, Vermont Developmental Disabilities Council, and the Housing and Homelessness Alliance of Vermont.
So I think as the budget team pointed out, this would be an unusual move. I think that one of the things that we are trying to do is to make decisions based upon facts and information that is valid. And I know there have been questions about the validity of the organization. I hope that those questions were answered by the documentation that's been provided to the committee. The other facts that are not in question, and I'm just speaking from my perspective, is the amount of work that people with very significant disabilities require in order to become more stable in their lives. And I have seen case after case after case where the work that End Homelessness Vermont has done has continued to enable those folks to receive life saving benefits at this point in time because it's been through the GA. So I personally am in favor of an appropriation there. But I think, you all need to, indicate in your own way whether or not that's something that you can support or not. I think that the Disability Coalition that you just heard Jubilee talk about recognizes the work on people with disabilities. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So this is an initial indication of support. Look, this is not a final thing. We're going to vote on this on Tuesday. We'll go through each one again on Tuesday when everyone is able to be here. But and remind me of the dollar amount again. You took out concrete supports.
Yes, 511,620.
Okay, this goes to our basics, supporting the basics, which are shelter and food. So we'd be looking at $511,000. So can I see by a show of hands those individuals who support that? And those that do not support it at this time? Okay. Okay. All right, so I think that wraps up what we can do with ESD and OEO at this point in time. I am going to be continuing to work over the weekend on a new draft of a homelessness bill with Katie, and that utilizes the resources that are in the governor's budget, plus what we haven't passed BAA yet, but the House recommendation was also taken up by the Senate for the flexible supports. So added that back in. So I'll be making sure that people get information because I've received in the last 24 hours, more detailed information from both the department and from some other sources around inquiries that have been made around, how does all this money break out? It's a lot of money. And how is it being spent? Where is it being spent? How much is on shelters, development versus operation? How much is on prevention? What are we looking at in terms of what is already committed, what is already in the base, if you will, not talking about enhancements going forward. So we'll be, you can look forward to getting a new version of that early next week on Tuesday. So we'll be spending most of our week working on that bill. We'll do on Tuesday after floor, or after caucuses and stuff in the afternoon, we will wrap up our budget memo letter. I would like to take a look at the language that people are proposing. If you can make sure that, I'm sure that Katie will be sending it over, but it's usually what she does is send it to the person who has requested it. So if you don't see me copied on it, if you could send it my way, that would be good. And I think I'm going to just send her in a little note asking her to put it all in one document, which I'm sure she's doing anyway.
I make a request.
Yeah.
On the table, if folks, we talked yesterday about taking out like the personnel line items that are, or the net neutral stuff that you're concurring with. If folks can go into the table and clean that up, then that would.
Just let's start. We'll let them.
Thank you.
Take them out entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need
We only
personal
need the changes,
services.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Okay. And so, do we have a rescheduled time yet, Lori, for education, pre-K?
2:45 on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, okay. So Tuesday afternoon, after we finish our budget work, we'll dive into pre-K. And we'll hear from the Joint Fiscal Office on their report, which has already been forwarded to you a few days ago. So take a look at that before we delve into pre-K next week. Between that and housing, and we're also going to do the APS bill next week.
Fantastic.
So the APS bill is going to be a one and done. It's a simple bill. I know I jinx myself when I say that, but it's right. It's a bill that supposedly everybody has met and agreed to, and we should be able to just hear from Jen Carby and hear from the department and the ombudsman office, and we should be set to go on that. So hopefully we'll be voting that out before break next week. And Dan, are you okay to present that bill?
I am.
Okay. The other bill that we have to do is this pre-K bill. So that is going to be a committee bill. We're going to be outlining, it goes along with education reform, but we've been asked to do a separate bill on pre-K. And so our beginning testimony is going to be from the Joint Fiscal Office, but then we'll be also hearing from Building Bright Futures. We'll be hearing from the department. We'll be hearing from AOE, all around sort of best practice in pre-K, and be making what we'll be doing is ultimately making a recommendation to Ways and Means and the Ed Committee about what we think should happen with pre-K, because it's a mixed delivery system that includes public schools as well as private providers. That will not be an easy bill. I'm just putting that out there because there will be a lot of discussion about public-private in that. It might not be as hard in this committee. It'll be harder in other committees. So that's what it looks like for next week. And then we'll be on break. And then You should prepare for crossover week to be a longer week. Okay, crossover week, we will likely start at least by 8:30. And we may need to stay a little later depending upon how our bills are progressing. So, and H 545 is on the Senate calendar. I don't know if they've acted on it yet, if they voted on it, but it was on the Senate calendar for action today. So if Anne got a hold of you like she did me and Doug and, you know, got all our hackles up about something that we didn't need to, don't worry. It wasn't true. So it's all good. Anybody have any questions about where we're headed and what we're doing next week? And then when we get back, go ahead.
Should we be keeping Monday of crossover week open for potential committee work?
No. Only appropriations gets to meet on Monday. And I can tell you that we are not going to get the same dispensation that we got last year for our housing bill to get an extra week. We won't be getting that this year. So, you know, we will be forging ahead on a housing bill.
Are we still going to be doing the
DCF bill, yes, we will see. Thank you for reminding me about that. We have an omnibus DCF bill. That I am hopeful. I can't make any guarantees because we have a lot of different things in the bill. And it will require testimony from different places. So we will most likely be spending a good chunk of the time the week that we get back from town meeting break. But you will see a draft of that bill next week.
okay.
And I'm continuing, I met with John Gray this morning and the
Yeah.
CF on that.
I love
So,
part of that. Yeah.
we're gonna go and put some more work into it after we break
Okay.
here, so I'll
Okay,
have some information for you.
great.
I have a rough draft, but we need to make some changes.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Any other questions? Okay, so early break, early release day, because everybody's all concerned about the weather. But you know, don't go skipping through the hallways. All right.
Usually everyone else leaves
It
early
is, and
and
we're
we're
the
all
last
here
ones to
until like
leave, I know.
4:35 on
I know,
a
it
Friday.
Huh?
Here's here till 3.
Healthcare is here till 3. Go healthcare.
Yeah.
Okay, all righty, thank you. Oh, wait a minute. We didn't actually vote on benefit assisters. Sorry, I'm just realizing that. I put out a whole thing, I laid it out there, I put out a whole thing about where the money can come from. And we verified that the money for the SNAP
outreach,
stuff,
yeah.
outreach is in there. And so, again, I have no idea if appropriations will go for this. But and this is the committee that probably has they've made the rounds, as you heard from witnesses, but this is the committee that has the most impact in terms of the areas that are covered in that proposal. Do we know what healthcare said? Do we know what healthcare said? Just smells. I'll see if a member knows first. Nolan,
For the record, no landlords at this club, they prioritized their issues that came before them, including budget stuff and tasks, and benefit assistance did not make their list.
okay. We can talk offline. Okay, so I think that in our committee, we have seen enough of the impact of what happens when we don't have on the ground in the community work happening with individuals themselves. That is problematic. So I personally am supportive of this, as long as we're able to fund it out of the $50 million pot. I'm just kind of, I'm giving the,
Total amount is just so I can.
I'm giving Nolan the side eye.
4.95 now, or, yeah.
4.95. Close enough.
It was higher.
No.
Yeah. again, that's with the caveat that it comes out of, this is a direct result of the HR one. And so, making the link with the money that was set aside for the impacts from HR one. To me, this feels like a direct link to that. I don't know, if anybody else disagrees with that or has any other opinions about that. I'm happy to have them out on the table. Okay, so can I see a show of hands for people who are supportive of the benefit assisters proposal coming from the money that's been set aside for impacts of HR one? Raise your hands.
Hold up till Monday or
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. I realized we missed that important step. Okay. All right, now, get home safe, have a good weekend. And thank you for all your work on the budget. I know it's been kind of a slog. And you know, I feel really good about the work that our committee does to try to ask important questions and to try to understand the impact on Vermonters. And even when we have been in a much tighter budget year this year than we have in the recent past, we have still tried to make decisions that reflect the values that we have up there on the wall. And so I appreciate each and every one of you doing that work and doing that in a way that shows Vermonters that their legislators here are and continue to be deeply concerned about them in the state of Vermont. So thank you all for your hard work. I know it's been a lot. And have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Okay.